Good afternoon from Washington, D.C. It's a very cold day. You could see how I'm dressed, even indoors. It's very important to stay warm. So nice to have you back here again, and I'm going to be going over two of the games that I played. They just concluded U.S. Chess Masters in Charlotte, North Carolina, which was hosted by the Charlotte Chess Club. So I'm about to show you my second and third round games. And second round was played against international master Padmini Rout from India. I think 23-54, that's her rating. And the third round was played against William Graif from Canada, I think. So let us get right into it. Um, the second round, which is against the IM, I was white on the I was on the white side of the King's Indian attack. Of course, not surprising. And normally I don't. Well, I still do play the KIA, even though I've not had a lot of good results of it. And you really can't blame the KIA. You have to blame me because I'm actually having very good positions, but not just being able to finish the game. But of course, every experience you learn something. So e4, c5, knight f3, e6. D3 is played, knight to c6. G3, of course, this is the normal continuation with the KIA. You want to bishop to g2, castle, knight b d2, rook to e1, e5, and then try to attack on the king side. So g3 is played, d5. You have to play knight d2 here, knight b d2. The idea is after the capture, you want to capture back with the pawn without your queen being able to get exchanged on the d file. Because once your queen is exchanged, forget about the attack on the king side. So knight b d is played, knight f6, bishop to g2, bishop to e7, white castles, black castles, rook to e1. All this has been played before, rook to e1, queen to c7, e5. Now we have a typical position from a regular King's Indian attack. The e5 pawn always is ideal. The e5 pawn is to cut the board into two so that white is able to bring his pieces to the king's side and try to create some attack on the black pieces. Normally black is supposed to create some play on the queen side. But in this situation, the international master from India, Padmi, had a different idea. So after the move e5, she went to g4. I have never seen the move knight to g4. I mean, it's the same idea with the knight to d7. The idea is just to capture the pawn on e5. So queen e2 has to be played, then f6. So pretty much she's saying, you know what, even though you're trying to create some play on the king side, I'm going to try to engage you by keeping more of my pieces on the king side. So after the move f6, of course, captures back. Now in this position, I thought about so many moves. I thought about c4, trying to put pressure on the pawn here, captures twice. I thought about knight to b3. And these are moves that are actually good. Actually, at this point in time in the game, the engine gives the advantage to white. So I had an advantage here, pretty slight, but it's still something. So here I played h3. I don't think this h3 was necessary because then I wasn't really going to stay long on that position. Another move I thought about in this position is to move my knight to h4. For example, after knight to h4, the knight has to move probably the knight has to move to h6, and then I have knight b3. What's the point of knight b3? Putting pressure on the knight, forcing the knight to move again, probably to f7, and then I have queen g4, check, king moves, and then I have maybe queen here, threatening check because this is hanging, and if you move the rook, I can probably move the knight here, attacking this because my queen is attacked. So I have all kind of things going on. So already it's like move 13 maybe, 13, 14, and white has an advantage really. So, but this doesn't happen in the game. In the game I played h3. I played h3, then knight moves back. I played knight to f1. Now what's the point of the f1 knight? The idea is to come to e3 and then g4, or go to h2 and then g4. The idea is to try to make sure black cannot push the pawn e5. So here, knight goes to f7, c3. It's very important for me to play the move c3 to stop the knight from jumping And of course, in some situations, to make the move d4. So if it captures back, stopping the move pawn push to e5. Because if this pawn cannot get to e5, this bishop is going to be a little bit misplaced. And then that means the bishop would always have to keep an eye on the pawn on e6. So c3 is played, bishop d7. Of course, white immediately tries to finish the development of our pieces. So after the move bishop to d7, I played knight to h4. Of course, I'm trying to get my queen to the king side because I see a lot of holes here. I'm trying to get my queen to the back part of the board to try and create some play, just get something going. So knight h4 was played, f5 is played. There's immediate attack on my knight. I don't want the bishop takes pawn. It's going to expose my king's position. Of course, queen h5 is played. After queen h5, bishop to f6. I think that's a good move because now she's relocating the bishop to be able to protect this king that is exposed. And then the rook on a is going to come to either d8 or e8, depending on how the position goes. So bishop to f6 is played. I play bishop to f for gaining tempo on the queen. Queen goes to d8. Knight takes. Now this is where I think I went crazy. You know, I have no idea why I took that pawn, but I figured maybe if I can capture the pawn, takes back, I can take here. There's a pin on the knight. I can double my rooks, and then bring my knight to e3 to put more pressure on f5. I think I might have some play. But one thing I fail to realize is anytime you're creating an attack, how many pieces do I have? Let's count. I have 1, 2, 3 pieces. Let's say 4. All right, trying to attack the king. My opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5. So based on the count, it is impossible for my attack to work. It is not going to work, right? For whatever reason, I decide to sacrifice a piece. Knight takes for 2 pawns, and I think I some kind of attack, but that's not supposed to be. So bishop takes f5. She played a very strong move. Knight to e7. At this point in time in the game, I needed to make sure I control the long diagonal, putting pressure on this knight so the knight cannot move, and then trying to hit the knight on e7 twice, maybe doubling the rooks, and then maybe at some point in time push the knight to f5 or to e3 to put pressure on f5. But here, of course, I played bishop b3. Now she played a5. This is a multi-purpose move because it's not just about trying to force my bishop away, but also to bring the rook into the game, which was very critical for her in this game. So after the move a5, I play bishop d6. Now, one thing about chess is once you're down material, exchanging pieces is just going to help your opponent. So you want to stop. You want to avoid any kind of exchange pieces. If you have to exchange pieces, that means you're just losing the game. So this is a game I really didn't get to play. I pretty much just beat up on myself. But of course, lesson learned. I know what I should have done. So bishop d6 is played. The idea is after a4, bishop goes to c4. Now after b5, I have bishop takes knight. He has to take back. I have a tempo on the rook. But then I just pretty much get the rook. Now we have more pieces defending this king. So that means my sacrifice on f5 is already a very, very bad idea. Like I said, I pretty much just gave away this game because this wasn't a game I played. I got outplayed and then I lost. No, I pretty much just beat up myself on this game. So rook a6 is played, knight e3, threatening to take on e6, f5, rook f6 defends it, knight g2 threatening to come to e3 to try and put pressure on the square e6, bishop to d6, she stops it. Rook to e2, trying to double my rooks now, the e5, I don't have enough time to do that. Of course, she just on pain. Now, all the pieces are going to come to life, and just in a matter of time, white would have to throw in the towel. Now, bishop takes is winning, but she even made a stronger move. And after the move rook to h6, I pretty much resigned. So this was my second round game. Like I said, this was not a game I got outplayed, but I pretty much beat up myself. Number one, failing to take advantage of the placement of my opponent's pieces. I could have had a slight advantage, but instead I gave up a piece on knight f5, trying to create some play on the king's side, but it was not meant to be. Okay, so that was my second round game against international master Padimi Rout from India. So my third round game was against FIDE master William Graif. I think is from Canada. Of course, I was on the black side of the Sicilian defense. And to to take note, in this tournament, I was 100% with the black species, the Sicilian. And I was 100% with the KIA. That means I lost all my KIA games. So e4 is played, c5, knight c3. I wasn't expecting this. I didn't know I was going to play this. So I had something totally planned different for him. So I played knight c6. Of course, normally I start with the move e6. So the idea of knight e6 just to also surprise him. So he plays bishop to b5. I played d6. Normally in this position, knight d4 is played. Like I said, I just wanted to surprise him the more. So I played d6. He captures back. He plays f4. g6 is played. He plays d3. I play bishop to g7. Of course, I'm trying to get my pieces and get my king safe as quick as possible. Bishop g7 makes a lot of sense because now I'm putting pressure on the d4 square. And of course, my bishop on any other square would not be so effective. So bishop to g7 was played. He plays bishop to d2. I play rook to b8, putting pressure on the pawn on b2, sorry. He plays b3. I was very proud of this move, f5. When I made this move, I'm like, you know what? I have the two bishops. It makes a lot of sense for me to just open up the position. So I have to play f5 first. And when I was going through this game with the engine and I saw the engine suggest the move f5, it really made me excited. Now, after the move f5, my opponent played knight f3. Now, in this position, based on what I just said, playing f5, you play f5 because you want to open up the position because you have the two bishops. I should have continued with the move takes. Whatever it takes back with the pawn or with the knight, black is just okay. But instead I didn't take. Instead I moved the knight to h6. Of course, it's not going to take. Taking is going to pretty much help me a lot. So knight to h6. And of course, the reason I went to h6 was because I didn't want to block my dark square bishop. And of course, knight h6 cannot really be exploited in this position. So knight h6 was played d4, and I castled. Now in this position, if I can get knight f7 and e5 in, I'll be looking really good because anytime it captures, I can capture with a piece, the knight, leaving my structure very solid here. So, but of course, he didn't give me that chance. He played e5 immediately himself, and even till this point, my opponent was playing very confidently, and I was just trying to stay alive. I was like, because at this point, of course, I was way out of my preparation. Now we just play chess. So pretty much we have to look for the best squares for our pieces and try to get our pieces there as quick as possible. So after the move e5, I castled. He plays queen to e2. I really thought for him about going to the queen side and just rolling his pawns down to attack me. I really didn't know what I was going to do because it's kind of hard for me to open up the queen side. It's really hard because if I play a5, you can just play a4, putting a stop to it. Of course, maybe I would have to worry about pawn push, try to break this pawn and then expose the king. Yeah, but I don't know how I'm going to continue. Let me put it that way. So I play queen to e2. So I play queen to c7, of keeping an eye on the pawn. And of course, I was going to try and put pressure on the pawn at some point, just to put pressure. Not that I'm going to be able to win the pawn, but at least put pressure and force him to do something about the pawn. So queen to c7 was played. He plays castles. I was excited when I saw that. I was like, wow, thank God. So I wouldn't have to worry about him going 0-0 and attacking my king's position. So I play knight f7, putting pressure on e5. He plays rook a to e1. I play bishop to a6. What's the point of bishop to a6? Of course, keeping an eye on this long diagonal. It's not as if anything's going to happen, but at least I needed to develop this bishop. I didn't want to come to d7. Of course, that's a blunder. I lose a piece. I didn't want to go to b7 because there is nothing like I'm doing on b7. Instead of blocking my rook, but bishop a6 is the next move. Maybe I shouldn't even move the bishop anyway. Sometimes in the game of chess, you necessarily don't have to move your pieces or if you don't have a good square to put them. But I play bishop to a6. He plays knight to a4. I attack the knight. He goes to b2. He's pretty much trying to make sure that these two squares are secure. So I play rook a2, rook b to e8. He plays c4. Bishop goes back to a6. It brings the knight back to a4. Of course, the knight is way superior than the bishop. Even though I have the two bishops, it's very important impossible for me to get an open position. The position is pretty much locked. So black is really in the driver's seat in this game. So knight to d8 is played. Now, I have an idea here. I was going to bring my bishop to e8, throw my knight to e6, and then to d4. Just trying to get something to do, really. You can't just sit down and just wait. You have to try to get something. Knight d8 is played. He plays h4. Now I figure, you know what, it's time for him to start to put some pressure on my position and try to see if he can break my position open. So I play knight to e6. Of course, taking here doesn't work for him because I simply take back and I've solved all my problems because now I have the very strong d4 square. I have the bishop controlling the long diagonal. I have the e file. The queen is misplaced, so I'm just good. And of course, it's not going to do that for me, So knight e6 is played. He plays queen to f2. I brought the bishop back to e6, keeping an eye on the knight on bishop to c8, keeping an eye on the knight on e6. Bishop is not doing anything on a6, and it's not going to do anything on b7. So the next place is to bring the bishop to c8. Even though he's defending something, he's doing something. So he plays g6, h5. He took the pawn. He brought the queen, attacking the pawn. I moved the knight to d4. It's very important for me to try to clear the 7th rank, my 7th rank. My second rank, his 7th rank. So try and defend it because the queen is, of course, coming into my territory. There's queen takes h5, there's knight here, there's pressure here. So I needed to try to remove that knight. So knight d4 is played, queen takes h5. I played e6, like I said, trying to clear my second rank, his 7th rank. Because of if I don't do that, I might fall into a maneuver like this, and then I have issues here. So he plays king to h8. I play rook to d8. What's the point? I'm trying to bring my queen to exchange off his queen to just force the queen away from my territory. So he plays bishop to c3, trying to win a pawn. So I took the pawn on e5. He takes the pawn back. I play queen to e7, protecting my pawn on c5, that is protecting my knight. And of course, I have my rook also protecting the knight. This is still an advantage for white. If I have enough time to play bishop d7, bishop to e8, bishop to g6, I might not be that worse. At least I have some defensive possibilities for my king. He plays bishop to d2. I played f5. Sorry, I played f4. Of course, the idea is to get my pieces in the game as quick as possible. So he plays rook to e4, rook to f5, getting tempo on the queen. He plays queen to g4. Now I'm looking to take on e5 at some point in time after capturing the pawn on f3, but I can't do that because of the pin on my king. So what did I do? After the move queen to g4, I step to the side, king h8. So it takes on d4, not a good move. I think that's where it really lost his advantage. Takes on d4, I take back. It takes with the rook. Now bishop takes e5. It takes my rook on f5. I take his rook. It goes to h5, threatening bishop to g5. I say rook to g8. I can't let you do that. He plays rook to e1, attacking my bishop on e5. I play queen to g7, threatening checkmate on g2. He plays rook to e2, protecting the checkmate. I play bishop to d6. What's the point? Stopping the knight from dropping. I'll prefer to have a pawn on that square than a knight because the knight on that square gets closer to my position. But with a pawn on that square, the knight is still out of the game. So I play c5. Bishop goes back to e5. Knight plays queen h6, trying to trade the queen, grab a pawn. But unfortunately, that was a blunder. Here I just play queen to g4, threatening to take the rook. And there was really nothing he could do here. For example, if he plays rook to f2, there's a queen check, and queen takes check is made because the king doesn't have the square. So after the move queen to g4, my opponent resigned, and on the third round, I was able to win my very first game of the US Masters. Okay, so that's it for now. Like I said, I'm going to bring the other games to you as soon as possible. I think there were this is the third round. It was a 9-round tournament, so 6 more games coming up. And yeah, check out the game. Let me know what you think. Comment, whatever it is, let us know. And I'll appreciate if you could also leave some comments in the chat box. All right, that's it for now. See you soon. Take care. God bless.